Our first game, A for Agawan base. There are two teams with two bases. How many players on each team depends on the players. There are two bases which each team claims as their own. The goal is to tag the other team's base without getting tagged. If you're tagged, you're transferred to the other team and must be rescued. There are several variations in which the rules are changed. In some, you can connect others' item on the base so you can easily touch the base. There are usually set points, such as first team to tag the other team 5 times wins. You can tag other people who has touched their base before you are on the opposite team. If they've touched their base after you've touched your base, they can tag you and you can tag them. B for Bulong Pari. Bulong Pari, whisper it to the priest. It is composed of 2 teams and an it. The leader of Team A goes to the priest and whispers one of the names of the players of Team B. Then he returns to his place and the priest calls out Lapit, or it means approach. One of the players of Team B should approach the priest, and if it happens to be the one whom the leader of Team A mentioned, the priest will say boom or bang. The player then falls out of line and stays somewhere near the priest as a prisoner. C for Chinese Garter. 2 people hold both ends of a stretch garter horizontally, while the others attempt to cross over it. The goal is to cross without having tripped on the garter. With each round, the garter's height is made higher than the previous round. The game starts with the garter at ankle level, followed by knee level, until the garter is positioned above the head. The higher rounds demand dexterity, and the players generally leap with their feet first in the air, so their feet across over the garter, and they end up landing on the other side. Also, with the higher levels, doing cartwheels to cross the garter is allowed. Next is D for Dampa. It is a race of rubber bands. The players will use their hands by tapping the surface and produce air to move the rubber bands and make it cross the finish line. The player who finishes it first wins the game. E for Egg Catch. It is a rather easy and straightforward game to play. In order to begin, you must have an even number of players as they will be divided into pairs. Each pair of players get 1 egg and then the game begins. All teams begins by standing at equal distance apart. One person begins by tossing the egg to the other teammate. If the teammate catches the egg successfully, they both take a step back and the same continue. If the egg is dropped but not broken, the teammate may pick it up and throw it back and consider themselves lucky to still be in the game. If the egg broke on the ground or in someone's hand, the team is now out of the game. The game continues until there is one team left standing. If there happens to be a question on the last two teams as to whose egg broke first, the winning team is determined by whichever team is at the farthest distance. F for follow the leader. It is a children's game. Players first choose a leader or head of the line, and the remaining players all line up behind the leader. The leader then moves around and all the players have to mimic the leader's actions. Any players who fail to follow or mimic the leader are out of the game. G for the game Gagamba. It is also called as the spider fighting. It is a popular game among Filipino children. The game starts by placing two spiders at the opposite ends of a stick. Then the first spider that falls off the stick 3 times loses. In some versions, the spider should die first by being eaten by the opponent before being considered as defeated. H for hand clapping games. A hand clapping game generally involving 4 people. They are split into 2 pairs, a pair having 2 people facing each other, and all members from both pairs facing the center, the 2 pairs being perpendicular to each other. Each pair then does a hand clapping routine while singing the Bahay Kubo or Liron Liron Sinta. In this, we sang the Pamela 1. At the middle of the song, each pair exchanges routines with the other. I for ice, ice, water. Decide among your group who is the first it. The players station themselves and once the game begins, the it person get to tag a person while saying ice. When a person is iced, he or she must not move. The goal of the game is for the person it to ice all other players. To save a person who is iced, other moving players can tag them and shout water. Then the ice person can move again. Once the it person iced every player, he or she will say Viva. Last one to do the Viva challenge becomes the next it. J for Jack and Poy. It is a Filipino version of rock, paper, scissor, which is commonly used to play everywhere to resolve disputes or used to decide who will be going first in some circumstances. Jack and Poy uses the common method on resolving the winner of the game. The rock beats scissors but loses against paper. The scissors beats paper but loses against rock. The paper beats rock but loses against scissors. There can be 3 to 5 rounds. The game ends when somebody gets 3 wins. K for Kapitang Bakod. Kapitang Bakod or touch the post or your it or hold on the fence. When the it or tagger is chosen, the other players run from place to place and save themselves from being tagged by holding on to a fence, a post, or any object made of wood or bamboo. L for Langit Lupa. Langit Lupa, one it chases after players who are allowed to run on level ground or lupa and clamber over objects or langit. The it may tag players who remain on the ground but not those who are standing in the langit or heaven. The tag player then becomes it and the game continues. In choosing who the first it is usually a chant is sung while pointing at the players one by one. Langit, lupa, impyerno, impyerno. Saksak, puso, tulo ang dugo, patay, buhay, umalis ka na sa pwesto mo. When the song stops and a player is pointed at, they are out and the last person left is the it. M for Manila paper game. Similar to Trip to Jerusalem and Stop Dance in the sense that it requires stopping and starting music to eliminate players. The twist is that a piece of paper is used as the dance floor. Players are grouped into twos and hop on the paper when the music stops. The paper is then folded in half and gets tinier and tinier. The teams must find a way to remain upright within their respective dance floor. The last team standing wins. N for Nanay Tatay. It is a traditional Filipino children's game and one of the most played games by children in the Philippines. The game is played by two players while clapping and chanting, "Nanay, tatay, gusto kong tinapay, ate, kuya, gusto kong kape. Lahat ng gusto ko ay susundin nyo. Ang magkamali ay pipingutin ko." At the same time, the moment when a player makes a mistake, they will be punished by the other player by getting pinched on their nose or ear, or by any other punishment of their choice. O for Once Upon a Time. It is a chant game while passing clap to other players. Once upon a time is a Valentine. Anong pangalan ng first love mo? To whom the clap stop, that player will mention the first letter of his or her crush name. Passing of claps continue by singing the alphabet. To whom the letter mentioned stop, he or she will be asked truth or dare while the hands are being gripped. If the player said truth, he or she will be asked questions that is needed to be answered truthfully. Then if dare, he or she will receive a consequence. P for the game Pico. It is the Philippine variation of the game Hopscotch. The players stand behind the edge of a box and each should throw their cue ball. The first to play is determined depending on the player's agreement. Example given: nearest to the moon, wings, or chest. Whoever succeeds in throwing the cue ball nearest to the place that they have agreed upon will play first. The next nearest is second, and so on. Q for the game Quack Quack, or in the other places it is called the Dr. Quack Quack. It is a popular game played mostly by Filipino children. It first involves one player being chosen as Dr. Quack Quack either by Jack and Poy or Bato Bato Pick, or some other method. After the chosen is determined, he or she will turn around and look away from the remaining players. The rest of the players will then form a circle, hold each other's hands, and move over or under each other to entangle the circle formed. To start a round, the player chosen as Dr. Quack Quack will then turn around facing the tangled circle of players and then start to untangle them all by him or herself. When the player manages to untangle them, the round is over. The chosen player wins, and another round may begin for a new player to be chosen. However, if the chosen player manages to fail in untangling the other players or injure other player, the player may be given a consequence depending on the choice of the other players. R for Rainbow Rock. It is the ultimate test of flexibility. Kids must pass under the limbo stick without touching it or touching the ground. It's an easy feat in the first round, but casualties usually pile up with each round as the stick goes lower. That doesn't mean the most flexible kid automatically wins though. If you've ever bent the rules and pled your innocence by bowling to get to the next round, you know what we're talking about. S for Sausaw Suka. Sausaw Suka is a children's finger game in which one player attempts to catch the other player's fingers as they dart off his palm after a chant, Sausaw Suka mahuli taya. T for the game 10-20. A game involving two pairs, with one utilizing a stretch length of garter. One pair faces each other from a distance and has the garter stretch around them in such a way that a pair of parallel lengths of garter is between them. The members of the other pair then begin doing a jumping routine over the garters while singing the song 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 or pieces. Each level begins with the garters at ankle height and progresses to higher positions, with the players jumping nimbly on the garters while doing their routines. U for ubusan lahi. One tries to conquer the members of a group as in claiming the members of others' clan. The tag player from the main group automatically becomes an ally of the tagger. The more players, the better. The game will start with only one it and then try to find and tag other players. Once one player is tagged, he or she then will find the it to tag the other players and until no other participant is left. Some people also know it as Bansai. V for volleyball. It is just like the typical volleyball that we played. The main difference is that the ball used in this game is not the official volleyball. This kind of game is popular to the children of the Philippines, especially during summer. W for the game We Gonna Kick. It is like a hand clapping game but with the footworks. Both players will sing We Gonna Kick, open, side to side, then move based on its steps. The player to first commit mistakes with the game loses the game. X for XOXO. It is also called as the Tic-tac-toe, noughts and crosses, or X's and O's. It's a paper and pencil game for two players who take turns marking the spaces in a 3x3 grid with X or O. The player who succeeds in placing 3 of their marks in horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row is the winner. Y for Yoyo. It is played by holding the free end of the string, known as the handle, by inserting one finger, usually the middle or ring finger, into a slip knot, allowing gravity, or the force of a throw and gravity to spin the yo-yo and unwind the string, similar to how a pull string works. The player then allows the yo-yo to wind itself back to the player's hand, exploiting its spin and the associated rotational energy. This is often called yo-yoing. Lastly, Z for Zombie Run. After determining the it, he or she will act like a zombie, then will tag other players by biting them just like a zombie. The players that has been tagged will also help in tagging other players that is not yet a zombie. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and hope you learned something.